Welcome to Real Flix Reviews, like a book club for people who hate reading. This week we're talking about the TV show Firefly and the movie Serenity. We don't have any movie news, and this week we have Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, Ryan Preston.
The old guy's here. Hey, how you like our new set? Watch, I can make my hand disappear.
It's spacious. Who has the description of this?
Wait, are we doing a description of the entire series?
The problem is, if we do this description of the movie, it's one sentence.
Let's just describe the whole thing as a whole then. One big basket.
Okay, really, James, why don't you go ahead and explain the reason this is a season and
wait, you cut out.
Where?
Oh, why we're ending it here? Because Fox was
this is a split thing of why there's even a movie and not just a season 2.
Well, unfortunately, what we were kind of discussing before the show is that Fox screwed the pooch on this one horribly and made it so that it did not continue. So they basically gave Josh Whedon another chance to summarize what he wanted to do with the entire season, or at least the first season. So this is a first season ender in the entire thing, and they don't even go into why the priest even had the world of Haven, Shepherd.
Well, that's the thing is...
there was so much that was left open-ended.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Well, it wasn't necessarily open-ended. Basically, what happened is, like you said, Fox screws the pooch on this one and cancels it based on whatever low ratings, after which it becomes an insane cold hit where the fans... One of the only times I could think of where the fans really rallied together and said, no, you guys really messed this one up. Why did you cancel it?
Yeah.
So they basically gave Joss Whedon $40 million to just go make the movie, which could span a little more time than just the season was kind of sort of their day-to-day. The movie takes place 6 months after the Objects in Space episode. There was like a 3-issue mini comic book run that sort of gapped the 6 months in between. But
I never read them.
See, and I have a problem calling it 6 months. I really do. The feel of the storyline to me is much more than six months.
You're kind of wondering.
It's the thing about the change of venue, sort of from television to movies, is television is so episodic, to use a phrase that's already been used, but movies sort of span that time where television shows can't.
Yeah.
Firefly played like a soap opera, which is just every day, and the movie, jumps through time and goes back and flashbacks, et cetera.
I would say definitely more than 6 months, based on the companion leaving and that interaction with Mal.
Tell you it's 6 months based on what Joss Whedon said.
And also what was going on with Shepherd and the town, little thing of Haven. And not even that, but there was so much things that weren't covered. Like, I wanted to know more about Parliament and how that played, and the Shweddle, whatever, dude, the guy who was the bad guy, the protagonist.
Yeah.
I don't have his name right on hand, right? I have his real name, but
you couldn't pronounce it anyway. They call him the operative.
The operative. Anyway,
it doesn't actually exist.
There was some things in there that I was like, that's really interesting. I want to know more about his background and what the other stages, if this guy's like a freelancer, if he's actually on payroll, which it seemed like he was on payroll. Because once they pull it up, they're like, "Oh, wait, you're this guy."
I thought that he quite possibly was like River.
Yeah,
that's the way he kind of had some superpower.
Yeah,
because the way I kind of took it, I never actually thought like he was like River, but now that you say it, definitely some possibilities.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe he was kind of like the MIB type of thing. He's so top level that he just doesn't exist.
Well, if you remember,
okay, that could be, but no, I don't think so. I mean, he just, he's a guy that isn't. I guess that's easy. He's a guy that isn't. But he look at all his skills and if you look at his fighting skills and
his
all this
interrogation,
stuff, and all the way it goes, similar to what River was trained to do and the way she was trained to fight. So there's where I tied the two together.
I get you.
I think that's just the dancey way that he likes to choreograph fight scenes. But he struck me more as like a cleric from like Equilibrium or somebody.
Yeah,
that's what I was on.
I'll go
kind of
with that.
takes the emotion out of their judgments and things, and is really okay with doing the terrible things that they've justified in their mind.
Yes,
And
and he
he's-
goes into that a little bit.
And
Yeah,
he's
it'll go both
and
ways.
he's oddly self-righteous for a guy who thinks he doesn't belong in a good universe.
Yes,
Yes.
and the
Which is
thing,
one of the most annoying part of the character, in my opinion.
But
He's like an altruistic sociopath.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, totally.
but you have the episode Objects in Space where they had sent bounty hunters after them already.
Right,
Right.
which is kind of what he reminded me of also, was that same sort of, I don't know, Joss Whedon's really good at that heavy kind of quiet killer, you know what I
Yes.
mean? It's just really calm, and that's kind of what's freaky about him. You know?
Well, the thing about the Objects in Space bad guy versus this bad guy is the fact that River was able to get under that guy's skin, the Objects in Space
Right.
Right.
Because that guy had
protagonist,
actually
and antagonist.
because that guy actually had issues. This guy just didn't seem like he seemed had, like, you know, for lack of a better term, looked like it had shit squared.
Yeah,
So he
well,
didn't
that's
have
more
anything.
what Ryan's putting him back to the equilibrium type of guy. He's
Yeah.
got his emotions under control, like he said in the first fight scene between him and Mal. You cannot anger me, and then she goes, you know, spend an hour with him. But I want to get back to Serenity and say, you know, what was the most standout episode for you guys?
Episode, you mean
Firefly.
scene in the movie?
No, in the
TV series.
in the series.
I don't.
Firefly, you meant.
Yes.
Yeah, for me
Okay.
personally, there's no like episode or part the episode that stood out for me. It was every small section that you got to see Mal when he was on, because Mal always seemed to be at least one step ahead of everybody.
Right.
He just never let most people know. And so there's
Yeah.
a couple of tidbits you get to see what he was thinking or his reactions to things.
My opinion was his experience at war, and he became a very effective platoon leader during the war, and he had a technique that worked, and he carried it on into this world of his that he's created with his ship.
Yeah.
You know, and
Because he's
so-
always playing everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's always a step ahead of everybody, and that's I think part of the charm of the character is the fact that, you know, he's pretty cool. He's got, you know.
You're right. There's an old there's a saying in war about never play your enemy's game. Always make your enemy play your game. So that's what he's
Exactly.
really good at, is making everybody react in a way that he knows how to control the
And
situation.
I thought that was a really good thing that they did in the movie was they had him play the other guy's game where the guy says, you know, if your quarry goes to ground, leave no ground to go to. And that's why it was so
Right.
big of a thing. But I think, you know, I think you're on to something with the fact that, yeah, there was a lot of history with Mel and in some of his interactions. I think, personally, my favorite interaction was between his character and, I don't have his name right up in my hands, but Adam Baldwin's, Nathan Fillion and Adam Baldwin. They played off each other amazingly, the character Jane, which leads me back to, you know, I love Janestown. I do. I think that one is my all-time favorite one.
That's definitely one of the stranger episodes.
Just because everybody's
It's
reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's different reaction to how that made them feel like there's a few people getting drunk. Let's go to the town where I'm the hero. You know?
It's all about me. Yeah. And I think that sums up Jane as far as I'm concerned. He's, you know, it's all about me. What about me? What, you know, where's
Yeah.
my money? Where's my, you know, whatever.
You're right. No, and it's totally funny every time he opens his mouth, especially if it's about that stuff that nobody really ever wants to hear him talk about.
Yeah.
Like when about River doing something, or or the mechanic or engineer, and he's
Yeah.
like, I could hear more, and everybody just kind of goes, and you know,
Yeah, you're talking about Kaylee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the little quirks between the characters and their personality flaws are very well done in the movie and in the series.
Yeah, I think that was one of the benefits of this little situation of the TV show crazy fan rally and then getting to do the movie. He was able to write and direct the movie sort of the way he wanted, which was brilliant when it came to all the little character quirks and stuff like that people love from the TV show. I think it hurt it just a little bit in as much as he's trying to wrap up the story.
Yeah.
Which you can tell the movie was stuff that he would have really liked to do over the period of like 3 or 4 or 5 seasons even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a shame that he was sort of having to rush through these little revelations about certain characters, albeit the preacher and some of the backstory with the old war and then having to jump in, balls deep with the whole River thing and what she can do when she was this like red herring throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
Kind of just like little tiny peaks of something maybe down the line that she's going to do. And then here it is. You just have to do the movie where she's all crazy good.
I do think, though, that this is the only thing in the TV series that they alluded to that would have made a good movie. Because,
you mean the Reavers?
Yeah, the Reavers and River. I don't think anything else they alluded to in the series would have made a good 2-hour movie.
Well,
Now, the thing
is, it was never supposed to be a movie, and River really was the Pulp Fiction briefcase.
Yeah.
The thing that was supposed to drive it all the way through. What happened to River?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and
Because they introduce her right off the bat, almost.
Right.
And the thing is that, he had to rush that beginning part to get you to that plot motivation of the fact that the big motivator of the entire thing was to get River because she had been in a room with everybody from Parliament and had gleaned secrets off of each and every one of them.
Right.
So he had to pick the cherry-picked one, which was what happened with the Reavers and all that stuff. And I think that would have been interesting because, they could have kept that going for, as Ryan said, multiple seasons.
Yeah.
Too bad,
And they could have started it off all sly, like the way that Josh Whedon likes to do things, which I enjoy. I think it's great the way that he does it because he gets you so into it. And, and they didn't really get into any of the other characters and what was going on, like...
Another thing that they kind of suffered for was you kind of have to assume that a lot of people watching this movie have never seen the show. So it's the Stan Lee, every comic is somebody's first comic. You have to really explain way too much. Where the fans are like, get to it, let's move along.
Yeah.
So did you say there was a lot of that? Because I actually thought this was fairly light, considering what they've done in the past.
11 minutes, right up until like a little credit sequence when the story actually jumps off was this sort of obligatory, like, okay, newbies, this is what this is. And then some of the character interactions seem to be a little bit manufactured for the sake of letting you know where everybody stands with everybody.
Yeah,
no,
well,
I want to say that it reminds me of a Tarantino thing. Is I wish instead of doing a movie, I wish HBO or one of these subscription places would have taken a hold, because if they did like a 2-hour thing every quarter or every year, I would buy HBO just for that.
But you got to remember, they weren't doing that at this time.
No, I'm saying that would be way ahead of its time.
Well, I'm not saying it was way ahead of its time. I'm saying it was just the beginning of its time because they had just done Band of Brothers. And they had only gotten so much of a cult following off of Band of Brothers. So for them to make such a leap, as Rob was saying, is a little bit ahead of their time. I'm not saying it was way out of there. I was just saying it was a big stretch for them. To take a big stretch on something like this, and Josh Whedon basically just kind of given up by just doing Serenity and putting it out there.
Because
it wasn't him giving up. It was everybody begged the studio to give him more show. And instead of giving him a show, they offered him a movie, and he basically just took it so he could try to make the fans happy.
Yes, and I want
to squeeze out.
And this is the swan song, because he's even said that the chances of doing another movie are very rare, just because getting everybody available.
Yeah,
and he's obviously on to bigger and better things. This was his first feature film directorial and writing debut. He had never done anything for a film before.
Yeah.
The only reason he got this opportunity was because his show kicked ass.
Right.
And I want to come back to a point that Ryan said of that there were people that went to this movie who had never seen the series. I think the way that he opened it up with the breakout of River and her brother Simon is that whole breakout and the introduction of them, and then all of a sudden throwing in the operative, and then when he says, where are you, River? Then he goes to the ship. I thought that whole way, because then you saw everybody's role. Mm-hmm. He summed up everybody's role in that whole section of them just landing. I think that was masterful. I really do, because it's got the fans, and they're like, oh, all of our favorites are in this show, or in this movie.
That's where I thought this was, when Ryan said, not that when Ryan said the intro, having to reintroduce the character was, was kind of long. It's like, I thought that not only was perfect, but, at this time, it had been 4 years since a lot of people have seen the series, and 11 minutes was just enough to go, oh, okay, yeah, he's the captain, she's the best man, character type of thing.
Yeah,
I personally think that the Kaylee character and the Jane character weren't introduced as well as they should have been.
I agree. And they didn't have as much, and I want to come back to that point, and they did not have as much to do with the plot and the things going on as they did in the series.
Right.
And it was a letdown for me on those two.
But I also think
really saving all of the good stuff for last. He was kind of just picking his moments of where to actually drop all the good summer things, or the good river things. Summer, Jesus. But I think going back to the intro, I think it was obligatory, but he's such a good director that he really creatively got by that little obligation in the beginning.
I get it.
But it's just a test.
You're welcome to your opinion.
But one thing that I think if this would have made it into a TV series longer was Kaylee. It was such an interesting character, and I just don't think she was given her due too much in the series. She was kind of
in the series.
In the
or
series,
in the movie?
in the series, I don't think she was really. You didn't get to know more about her. You kind of did, but not enough. I think she was one of the characters like Jane that wasn't developed enough. Because with Jane's character, you could obviously tell there were deeper motivations. I think you knew more about Kaylee's past, but I don't know. I just feel like the character just wasn't complete,
I agree, because pretty much the only one that you have that really goes into Jane's past is Janestown, where he's got the guy that he's been running with, that was, coming back, being released type of guy, the outlaw guy that he was. All you really know is that he was basically a gun for hire. Mm-hmm. And they show you how he got to be part of Mal, which was Mal just offered him a better deal. That was it.
Right.
Yeah. And I wanted to introduce. I wanted to real quick just go over Joss Whedon's directorial stuff, if nobody's a fan of his or not, and it's kind of a quick list of the big stuff he's been a part of. Firefly, Buffy, The Vampire Slayer, Angel, Serenity, The Office. This is all stuff he's directed episodes or the series. Dr. Horrible's Sing Along, Dollhouse, which was a good show. Another show of his got canceled before it was due. The Avengers,
way before it was due.
I didn't think Dollhouse was as good as it could have been.
I wasn't a big fan of it personally, but I know a lot of people that really liked it enough that when I got canceled.
I watched it. I was disappointed when it was canceled, but I must agree it was not near as good. I think as it could have been, and I think that's.
Yeah, I think there was too many things that. I think there were just too many additions and things that just didn't add to it. That is why it didn't get too far off.
Once they got the dolls going, and you saw a couple of them, there's the whole story. Okay, so she's reprogrammed it, and now she's going to do this, and then she's reprogrammed, and now she's going to do that. I mean, it's like big deal. I'm sorry.
Wow, and I'm usually the cynical one.
Yeah, no, that was just interesting. Does he have anything coming out?
Let me look. The new Avengers movie is definitely coming out. I was going to say the other thing that I thought I liked about this series, the fact it showed their shenanigans never change. Like, each character was really true to its own character. There wasn't any real fast character change like you've gotten in some, movie transitions, like the TV to movie transitions. Were
the thing I found interesting on the whole movie thing was that Wash was killed.
Him and the Shepherd were the two ones that really bummed me out.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Wash was so kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's the pilot.
That bummed me out more than the Shepherd. The Shepherd
was
kind of in and out, but I mean, that's the guy driving your boat, man.
Yeah, and he's
like that really.
He's cool.
As soon as he said, "I'm a leap on the wind," I remembered, and I was like, "Oh," I'm kind of teared up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but for
me, I was released. That one hit me more than any of the others as well.
But again, Joss Whedon is so bloody good at making you like somebody, so it hurts more when he takes them away from you.
Yeah.
Well, for me with the Shepherd, it's because you have these glimpses of who he used to be.
Yeah,
and you had these small, subtle hints from him working out with Jane to conversations of how the security works, our guns, and it's just like.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the parts that really struck me is like, because this is the end, you're not going to find out any more about these characters at all. Two things. One, I would love to see the director's cut of this, see how many cutscenes there were. I'll bet you there was some Kaylee backstory shit. I'll bet you there was some scenes with Preacher, explaining a couple of things, or even a flashback. But we're never going to get to see him, and I think it's one of the downsides of having to kind of cherry pick just to keep the movie under 4 hours.
Yeah.
I would be okay if they made it like an anime, just so I can get those stories. Those are the things I want to know.
I'm the same way, and they want him to still come back and keep doing the show, even after the movie kind of wrapped everything up like that. But it's, you're not going to get any more than that. It's a shame that he had to wrap it up that soon and cherry pick just the things that are going to move the story along.
Sorry, I was going to say real quick to answer somebody's question. The only movie that I see right now coming out for Joss Whedon is the Avengers: Age of Ultron, which is coming out in May of.
Well, I'm sure that's taken up quite a bit of his time.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I liked the way that he wrapped it up. I really did, and I thought it was good that he just kind of did a poem, and they just took off, and you have the piece of the ship flying off. Like, what's that? It's still like
that was good.
It leaves you wanting more.
Yeah, it leaves you wanting more, but you're to the point that you're like, okay, I know there's not going to be any more, but that was a good finish. It's really kind of how you feel when you're done with the movie. That's how I feel.
Yeah, but I do think, I completely agree. I do think we should talk about the most random character of this entire movie that they created just to end the movie.
Fanty?
Mr. Universe.
Or Mingo.
I love that character.
Hey, he's the numbers guy.
What? Fanty's cuter. Jeez.
Remember
But
numbers?
Yeah.
He was a guy in numbers.
Yeah. And he's the character, like, I really wish they made the series
I
longer.
wanted to
because
know
I would have loved more
about
him.
Lovebot.
About
Yeah,
what?
me too.
Lovebot.
Lovebot.
But I love his
The poor
wedding.
guy was such a nerd.
I love his wedding when he cracked the plate. It's like the whole thing was funny. And I don't think
She wrote her own
It doesn't
vows.
crack the
I
plate,
cried.
he broke the glass.
Yes,
Close
I
enough.
was going to leave it alone, but thank you for correcting him.
Hey, I'm just doing it to bug him.
I'm just trying to make sure that he has part of something historical correct.
Hey, I'm actually doing it to bug James.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I ignore him all the time.
Bastard.
What'd you say? And her name was Lenore.
Lenore. One of the things I like, I really like the headstones that they had there. It's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of cool.
That was kind of neat. You got this little, probably a 3D or holographic image that could be on the top there to see what the person looked like.
Did you think Wash showed the captain how to actually pilot the boat?
No, of course he always knew. Yeah, he had to know.
Why did you think River took it off? Took it off. Took off the plane. Piloted it. Started it up. Took it off the ground. River did that.
No, because he was starting it, though.
No, but she did it, and then he took over.
Okay.
Anyway, back
Next.
to Mr. Universe.
I just watched it a few hours ago. It's still imprinted. Here.
Okay, next. What were you saying, James?
Back to Mr. Universe.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually a really good character by him. It was nice to see him basically let loose.
'Cause that's
is what it
pretty
was.
much
Because
him.
in numbers, he was so reserved
Right.
for most of the time. And there was a few times where he got a little off the hook, but nothing in comparison to this.
And I'm almost positive, like according to his Twitter, he's really more like Mr. Universe.
He really
than-
is.
than
He
the numbers guy.
definitely is odd. I ended up stopped. I couldn't read his tweets anymore.
He's random, that's
He
for sure.
was out of it.
I mean, Joss doesn't he doesn't write bad characters. I've realized. You know what I mean? It's
Unless he tries.
yeah, unless he tries, but even then, he writes a brilliant bad character. It's between Firefly, Buffy. He wrote Toy Story, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
His bad character's like, oh my god, this is a bad character, but at least it's funny.
Well, look,
I mean, his dialogue plays so well between each other. He does. You know how some writers, you can kind of tell it's the same guy writing character A, character B. It's the same person using the same words, just in a different voice.
Or the same rhythm.
Or the same rhythm or something. You can tell it's coming out of the same brain. Kevin Smith kind of got bogged down in that, and like Clerks, you can tell Randall was written by the same guy that wrote Jay, from Jay and Silent Bob. But Joss is really good at fleshing out different characters and kind of each having their own arc, even if we don't see it.
Well, let's go back to actually how he wrote some of the characters in Firefly, and we come across one of the best bad guys in the entire film, entire series, since he only had one series. But Adelia Niski, the Russian kind of mob guy. I thought that character was really well done, and I could have seen him coming back in seasons later, or at least somebody from that crime syndicate coming back in later
I think
films.
every movie needs a good bad Russian. There's just something about him.
I wanted to see the Russian guy and the evil whore. I want to see those two team up, because those were the two best characters. The evil companion, or whatever her name was. Those were the two best characters in the series.
Yes, and I agree. And yeah, you can call it a companion, but she's still a whore. Anyway,
Mal.
I thought that, and then even also that, like, you could become a registered companion. What the hell? Anyway,
It's a different time, James.
A different time? You mean a time that never existed?
Yeah, it's a different time.
But I gotta say, there was so much
legal in Nevada,
in the universe. In this
Everything's legal in
universe, as
Nevada.
Ryan said, that we missed out on because of the fact that he wasn't allowed to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. He was right in the beginning of creating something on par with
Star Wars, yeah.
Battlestar Galactica, something we could have, drawn maps for and shit. Love maps.
So we're gonna we're
I
gonna
don't
have to
love
transition,
maps. I hate
because
maps.
we're coming up
You have
close.
to read them.
We're coming up close to the end of the show. So I'm gonna go to give it to Ryan. What do you give it? And this is for. Then I'm assuming you want to just give Serenity and Firefly an overall rating, or do you guys want to break it up?
I think this is an overall rating.
Okay, yeah.
It should be an overall rating. It was meant to be telling that whole story A to B, and B ends at Serenity. 5. This is one of the greatest things ever.
And James?
I gotta agree with him. It's a 5. There's no question. This one is one that needs to be seen.
One of the greatest things ever, and it's going to be everything. Watch this 100 years from now and still have a good time.
Do I need to take that away from you?
I'm not sure.
Rob?
I don't know why it popped up that way.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a 5, and it just again, sometimes I think it's unfair because I just love sci-fi, and it can even be crappy sci-fi, and I still like it. And but in this case, we have good sci-fi with great character development, as well as the details in the sets, the cinematography, some of the shaky cam work that was done. And a lot of this, of course, was pre-CGI, heavy CGI use. So, like I already mentioned, the sets, I thought some of the stuff was just done really well. So overall, between the writing and everything else, I really agree. I think it's a 5.
This is a rare moment, so everybody pause, have a moment of silence. A 5 out of 5. I completely agree. And for me, it's about everything that they said, and including the little stuff, like the billiard balls that were like 3D projections. Mm-hmm. There were so many little details that were just so rich. And in 14 episodes, you have this feeling of rich and depth, which doing in 14 episodes is really bloody hard.
It really is.
For example, Star Trek The Next Generation, when it came out, the first 14 episodes did not give you this much depth, and there was another series involved in it. So this was amazing, to my opinion.
Yeah, it's really unheard of for this show to do what it did. There's a reason so many people freaked out. How on earth could somebody not keep airing this show? Like you said, in the first 14 episodes, it seemed like it'd been around forever. The dynamic between all the actors and everybody from episode 1 was unbelievable.
So we're going to switch and tell you about what we're doing next month. Next month on Real Flix Reviews, we're going to...
That's for all of us.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean you're not giving me an applause?
No.
We're switching it up, and we're going to do something that we've never done. As you know, if you've been watching this show at all, we're a huge fan of shorts and believe that shorts are the future of movies, television, of this form of entertainment. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a month of shorts.
For the record, you don't mean that in the future everybody's going to be watching shorts, but the people that are making said shorts
Who
are
wears shorts?
Yeah, like actual shorts. Yeah, no, that. Thank you for the clarification. I guess I was as clear as mud. So I've picked two shorts. One was called Flashback. It was uploaded on YouTube on 2012, and this one has an original Star Trek member, Walter Coing,
Oh, really?
and
that is.
No, I don't know either.
Chekhov.
Oh,
And so here's a question: Should
You
I
said
give
Star Trek.
the
Yeah.
should I give the description of each short or not?
no.
No, just
Oh,
the
okay.
title.
And the next one is a Darwinian future. It was uploaded in 2014, and we'll
Sorry, Ryan.
What?
You didn't
Were you
get
saying that I'm
you
going to
didn't-
die?
Yeah, you didn't.
Because I
There, you finally got it. Took you a little while.
you do live in Los Angeles, the shallow end of the gene pool.
Darwinism, down there.
So what we are going to do is we are going to post these shorts to our Facebook page so you can watch them too. And I gave Serenity and Firefly a 5 out of 5. Rob gave it a 5 out of 5. James gave it a 5 out of 5. Ryan gave it a 5 out of 5, which is incredibly rare for all of us, including him,
Yeah, the old guy.
the grouchy guy.
Yeah,
And today he's really grouchy.
I really am.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for watching.
Thank you.